So for a last extension to this idea of making a menu and selecting, getting a user selection, I want to do something like this. So we've had a program where we can print out a menu and have a user select, but usually there's some other information that goes along with that selection. So for example, like a price. So let's take a look at, let me run this sample code here. So it's going to print a menu. Now notice we have additional information in the menu. We have a price. Forget for now that you don't have two decimal places in each price. Let's not worry about the exact formatting of that price for now. Let's just kind of focus on the fact that it's there. So notice that each item in our list now has a price attached to it. And so if I make a selection, say I choose, fish, it's going to tell me what my selection was, and we saw that before in the previous example, but it's also going to tell me what my price is, and that's the right price. So if we try run it again, let's choose chicken. Okay, so it gives me the right price as well for chicken, different price. So this is useful if you have associated data that goes along with your main list selection. So like if you have entries on a menu and you want to also bring in the price. So if we had a program that's going to ask people like different courses, so what do you want for your appetizer? What do you want for your entree? What do you want for your dessert? It could also keep track of, you could use that feature to keep track of your total price. So if you order soup and then your entree is chicken and then your dessert is ice cream, then you can get a total price. Okay, so it's real useful. So let's take a look at one way to do that. So what this is going to introduce to us is the idea of multiple lists, multiple corresponding lists. So in our program here, we're going to have two lists. And let me show you where that is in our program. So that's right here. So we have my list, which is the list. We've seen an example of something like that before. My list is just the entries in the menu, fish, steak, chicken, salad. But we also have another list called price list. And price list is a list of numbers, and those are the prices for each item. And notice they're in the same order as the items in my list. So fish is going to be $14.50, steak is going to be $15, chicken is going to be $12, and salad is going to be $9.50. So there's the same number of items and they're in the same order, so they're corresponding to the same positions as the items in my list. And that's important. If you don't keep the order and the same number, then everything is going to be kind of thrown off. Okay, so we have two lists. We have a list of items and a list of prices, and they match up, they correspond. Okay, now let's go back up to this print menu function that we've seen before. Now I added a little bit of extra stuff here. So let me show you what's going on here. In addition to the items parameter, which is a list of items that it's going to print out, you're also giving it another parameter. You can give more than one. Notice they're separated by a comma. The second parameter is calling prices, and this will be the list of prices that correspond to the list of items in the first list. So the heart of the function is similar. You have a for loop, then you have item number that bumps it by one just to make the numbering correspond to how people think about it. But the difference comes in this print statement. So we have the print statement where you print the item number, bracket, and then the item itself. And then here I have some extra stuff here on the end. So starting from here, you can see that $sign there. So this part right here is what gives you the price in parentheses when you print out the menu. So it prints out the $sign in the parentheses. Then it takes the item from the price list, or excuse me, the item from the price list. Okay, so that's prices I. That takes the item from the price list in the same position as the item from the menu list, makes it a string, and then adds on that last parentheses there just to make the formatting come out. Okay, so the little extra bit here just pulls up the prices from that second list and combines it with the output in the menu to make it a little bit more informative. So there's a difference there. We already pointed out that we have a second list which has the prices. Okay, so when we call the function, okay, notice we print menu my list and comma price list. So now we have to give it two parameters because there's two bits of information, extra information that it's expecting when it gets called items and prices. So we give it from the main program, my list has the items and price list has the prices. Okay, and then we have our input validation. So we kind of went over this in the previous one. Everything is pretty much the same. You have your setup, you have your flag, Boolean flag, then you have your while loop. The heart of the process is the while loop. Read in the selection, check it. Is it a number first? If it is, then make it a number. Then you check whether it's in the right range. So the new stuff though comes and the else's are the same. If it's not a number or if it's not in the right range, then you do this else. So this else is what happens if the number is not in the right range. And if it's not even a number, if it has other characters in it, like letters or other symbols, and you come here. So that's still the same. Okay, but the new stuff is coming if they do put in this valid selection. So it only gets to this block of code here, down here into this nested conditional, only gets there if, number one, it's a number, so it only has digits as part of it. And then number two, if that number is in the right range. Okay, then it'll get down to this block right here. Okay, so when you look at this block right here, you've got a couple of new things. So that will pull off the item they selected from the main list. And selection value -1, that's in order to take it from the number that you chose in the list to the actual index that the computer uses. And because we started counting at 1 versus 0, just to make it more human readable, we have to fix it up when we actually pull it out from the list. We actually have the same thing for price. Now we pull off the price, same thing, we pull off price list, and we pull off selection value -1. So fix up the index and then pull out the price that matches up with the item. Okay, and then in a print statement, we have another print statement here, which also will print the price. Okay, so in addition to printing the selection, we also print the price. Okay, so here's an example of using a second list to carry additional information about the items in the first list. In this case, an example would be prices. And the key to this is that the second list has to match up, has to correspond exactly with the first list. It has to have the same number of items, and each item has to be in the same position as the item in the original list. And if any of those two things are not, if you don't set it up quite that way, then you're going to get some problems. Okay, but here's how you can carry additional information. And you could extend this idea. So if there were additional things that you wanted to carry through, additional information for each thing you wanted to carry through, you could add another list or even more lists. Okay, now in the future, we're going to look at other ways of carrying that extra data as well. So this is not the only way that you could do it, but at this point, since we're focusing on lists, that would be one way to do it. And as I said, in the future, we'll see that there are other different ways of carrying that information through as well. Okay, so that's if you can understand this, you are pretty accomplished as a Python programmer. You kind of know your stuff because we're getting into some pretty neat but pretty sophisticated programming concepts.